Hey everyone, this is Billy Carson, aka Forbidden Knowledge. I want to tell you about an amazing online academy that I created in order to help people become the best version of themselves. If you're into self-improvement, if you're into financial literacy, entrepreneurship, ancient wisdom, all those amazing teachings, I put them all in one place. Over 150 hours of amazing teachings in one place called the Forbidden Knowledge Academy. You can simply get there by going to 4bkacademy.com. Also, if you want to come on tour and hang out with me in one of these amazing ancient sites like Egypt or Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, just go to my website, forbiddenknowledge.com with the number 4, forbiddenknowledge.com, and go to tours. You can find out all the amazing sites that I visit all around the world, and you can book a tour with me to hang out for like 2 weeks in some of these amazing ancient sites and see things you'll never see anywhere else. So make sure you go to forbiddenknowledge.com today.
I'm down 162 pounds in 6 months, and it feels great. Looking at myself in the mirror is a trip. I marvel at myself now because I'm like, man, I've done this in 6 months. 6 months is not that long ago.
I started this program back on July 1st at 288.5 pounds. Today I weighed in at 184. When I first got here, I was sad and depressed and stressed out. Over time, I regained my self-esteem, my willpower, my determination, and those things have helped me to grow and become happier with myself and in life.
Use code TFU10 for a discount on the full body cleanse.
This is O'Shea Jackson. You're listening to TFU Podcast, if you didn't know.
Welcome into another episode of TFU Podcast.
Let's go!
Today we got 5-time best-selling author, researcher, producer, CEO of Forbidden Knowledge, and in my opinion, is one of the most intelligent humans on earth.
Definitely. Let me tell you, this guy has done a lot
Billy
of
Carson.
work, a lot of reading. Shoot.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm happy to be here. And thank you for the great introduction. A lot of energy. It's an honor. I'm glad to be here. Kind of full circle, being that I was already kind of in a weird kind of way involved in one of your product lines before. So it's kind of amazing.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's really nice when things like that happen. Mm-hmm. But shoot, Billy, where are you from?
I was born in New York, actually. I was born in Queens.
Okay.
I lived in Cambria Heights when I was very young, and then in 1977 I moved to Miami.
Okay.
And so we left New York, Cambria Heights, and moved to Miami, Florida. Moved into a place called Opelika.
Okay.
And Opelika is an unincorporated Dade County. They used to have a triangle around that city to keep the crime on the inside. That's where I got my fresh start. It was pretty rough, I ain't gonna lie. The crossing guards were kids back then, so the 6th graders and the 5th graders were crossing guards. They would rob you or beat you up on the way to school to take your lunch money or your lunch, whatever you had. So you had to sneak into school, sneak into elementary school.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how did you go from that kind of neighborhood to who you are now?
Yeah. It was a big transition. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge transition.
Yeah.
I actually understand those kind of transitions.
Yeah.
It's a lot of hard work that when things like that happen. But what made you interested in Forbidden Knowledge?
Mm-hmm. Well, initially it was a mindset change that got me. So when I was about 8 years old, I realized that we were extremely impoverished. We were like abject poverty, right? We were bathing outside because we didn't even have running water in the house. We would connect our water hose to the neighbor's house to bathe and wash off out in the backyard. And one day I went outside and I decided I was going to sell my toys door to door, ask for donations. So I went door to door asking for donations for my toys. I got about $13 and change in my hand, and I realized then, I actually said it out loud, I'm going to save myself. It's me that's going to save me. So that mind change, that shift that I got in that moment really kind of changed everything about the way I thought about life, the way I perceived reality, the way I even perceived myself. And that set me down this whole new course, this fractured timeline, to be able to really utilize my mind to come up with ideas and act on them so I can create different outcomes.
Wow. God, at such a young age, that's crazy. At such a young age, I can't even imagine that. Shoot, I was still trying to figure out. I was still playing games, playing basketball, and things like that.
My uncle one time came down with the Atari 2600. It lasted for about a week with me. I just got bored. After I got a callus in the palm of my hand, I said, this ain't for me. So I put down the video game, and I went back to just studying and researching from books. So what happened for me was I saw this object fly over my backyard. This is in 77.
Okay.
Now, we live next to the Opelika Airport, a very small private airport, which still is in business today. And I would watch these prop planes come over the backyard.
Okay.
They amazed me because I knew they were moving fast, but from my perspective on the ground, they were moving slow. So I used to sit there and watch. I mean, there's no TV, there's no channels on TV, there's no nothing, no entertainment at all. You go outside and you play and look at the sky. And this one day, this object went across the sky that didn't have tail, wings, or a cockpit. And it moved across the horizon in seconds, not minutes, like the other planes. And I knew I saw something crazy. It was like a glowing metal. And then it came back, and it was lower. Now I can estimate probably like 90 meters above me. And it was completely silent. And then it went, and it was just gone again the way that it came in. And I was like, whoa, this is what really got me into forbidden knowledge. When I ran in the house and told my mother, she looked at me and said, son, in ancient times, there were advanced beings that came to this planet, and they lived on top of mountains. And she said, there's nothing new under the sun. Everything that's here has already been done before. She said, you need to visit Machu Picchu, which is why I dedicated my first book to my mom, and I took a picture that I took at Machu Picchu myself and put that in the front of my book, Compendium of the Emerald Tablets. And so she allowed me to open up my mind to other possibilities and open my mind to forbidden knowledge, really, technically, because she told me this is in the 70s. No space shows on TV, 3 channels on TV, no cable TV even existed at the time, and with no influence. She just somehow had this knowing, and she told this to me, and she was very strong about how she said it. It wasn't like she was beating around the bush. She just told me straight up, and that just opened my mind, and from there, I started researching aerospace. So I went to my elementary school the next day, and I said to my teacher, Miss Bell, I need to go to the library. She said, for what? I said, I need to get the encyclopedia. She said, why? I said, I gotta research something. So I went there and took down the encyclopedia on aerospace. I started researching swept wing, delta wing, intercontinental ballistic, submarines, and all these different technologies. I couldn't find what I saw in the sky. But that took me down the road of aerospace technologies and rocket technology, and I became kind of a quasi-aerospace historian. I kind of really got into that. About a couple of weeks later, the encyclopedia salesman shows up at our door and gives us a complete set of encyclopedias and says it's going to be $10 a month. The guy took one $10 and never came back. And it was like, for me, a gold mine of information. I was studying biology, chemistry, physics, economies, aerospace, astrophysics, quantum physics, you name it. That was my thing. And when everybody was outside playing, I was in the house studying.
Wow, you had a very unique mom, because most people would have been like, you're seeing things, that's not true. But like you said, she opened your mind to that. Yeah, I had a special father in such a way that he was, anything I asked him, could I do it? He always let me know that everything is possible and anything is possible. And all you had to do is put forth, the effort and the work. So the fact that your mom opened you up in that way at that time period, especially at the place Black people were at during that time, because we weren't doing as well as we're doing now. No, that's amazing.
I mean, my mother was a newspaper delivery woman, and my dad did the same thing. They worked together delivering newspaper. The Miami Herald, they made like $16,000 a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, since you mentioned seeing like a probe, 3i Atlas. It's supposed to be coming soon. Like, what do you know of it?
Yeah. Very interesting object and anomaly. So I was the very first person to interview Avi Loeb. Avi Loeb is the head of astrophysics at Harvard University. As a matter of fact, he's I wouldn't say a close friend, but somebody that I communicate with, consider one of my peers. He actually wrote a great review on one of my books, one of my science books, Fractal Holographic Universe. He wrote a great review in there for it. And he received an award at my award ceremony last year for Space Anomaly Hunter. But so I contacted him. That's how I had the communication so open with him. And before any other news source, any other TV source got him, I got him first. And while I was talking to him, we had to pause the podcast because the science team was calling him he has these space probes out there by Jupiter that he runs. And he was reactivating them so that he can go rendezvous with this object and get some close-up images outside of government images, which is being done. But I was talking to him extensively about it. At the time, he was saying 20% possibility, maybe 30% possibility, artificial anomaly. In other words, intelligently created object.
Wow.
And so we were talking about why, and it was because this object came in from inside of the galaxy. So it's not an intergalactic, it's galactic, but it's interplanetary. And come to find out, this thing altered its course to make its route to come through our solar system. And not only come through it, but take a scenic route. In other words, like the vacation stops. Let's go see the rings of Saturn. Let's go see Jupiter. Let's go see the moons. It was a crazy thing. But also, its ability to eject some type of mass or thrust out of the back. And then it had the capability of ejecting thrust out of the front. So it was making these course corrections and this slowing down and speeding up. The big thing about this was the scan of the actual physical body of this object. If it was a meteorite or an asteroid, it would normally give off some type of outgassing as it got closer to the sun. And that could create artificial course corrections because of the gassing. But this thing was giving off the actual signature of iron, but not just any kind of iron, like machined iron. And we know exactly what that is because we do it here on Earth. And so they also saw some patterns on the outside of this object, which shouldn't be there, geometric type patterns. And then as it got closer to the sun, all eyes were watching to see if it would use the sun as a gravitational assist and then move off and increase speed without gravity force. And it did. So this thing is accelerating on its own. So it had to slow down as it approached the sun, because if you come into the sun too fast and you're trying to use it for gravitational assist, you can skip off of the heliosphere and you can bounce out into deep space, right? If this thing is just a rock, that's what could have happened at the speed it was coming in. It slowed down so it can obtain a Lagrange point to grab a stable orbit around the sun, swing around the sun, then it turned bright blue. As if a shield came on, like a heat shield, it started glowing brighter than the sun itself. This is crazy stuff. No asteroid or comet has ever done this in our recorded history. And as it swung around the sun and came into perihelion, then all of a sudden, this thing just started picking up speed on its own. And I mean, so to me, and now I interviewed Avi Loeb a second time. He tried to get the images from NASA because NASA had rendezvous with this thing when it got by Mars. They have HD quality photos and images and video, but they won't release it to anyone. And the scientific community is going, what is going on? Normally, this is like standard. You give it, even if we can't present it to the public, we get it. They will not release the photos and videos of this image. And everyone's pissed off. Like the whole scientific community is really in an uproar because they want this data, but NASA won't release it. Their excuse was, the government's in shutdown. They can reply to all the emails, they just can't attach the video to reply. So there's something going on. So he's definitely dedicated to sending out his probes to rendezvous with it at this next point. And he claims he's going to be able to send back actual imagery of what this thing might actually be. So everyone's looking forward to it. He's up to about 60% artificial in his personal, opinion about the object, and I'm leaning towards the same. I think this could be. Now I'll tell you why. So in 1977, we had something called the WOW signal. The WOW signal is this star about 1,800 light years away from Earth. And this star in 1977, a man sitting in one of the astronomy, centers, observatories, picked up an artificial signal. And it was so incredible, such a repetitive signal. With the signature of intelligent life, he wrote WOW on the printout from the machine back then, the dot matrix printer, with the coordinates to this star. And it made international news. It's called the WOW signal. Anybody can Google that. It'll pop right up. The image of the actual sheet of paper will pop up on your screen. It's 1,800 light years away. Now, when they took the location or the trajectory of 3i Atlas and backtracked it, it came from that star. So now here's the crazy part. 1,800 light years would take you 1,800 years at the speed of light to get here. So 77 to 2025 ain't 1,800 years. So that means this, if it did come from there, this thing might, if it's artificial, might have FTL, faster than light travel capability. And it could have slowed down when it got closer to our part of the galaxy. In other words, just outside of our solar system. so it can take its scenic route and ride around. But now the first thing I told you when I got to Florida, the first thing I saw over my backyard, 1977, something flew over my backyard. And I just realized this only like maybe 2 months ago when I interviewed Ivy Loeb, and he told me that this object comes from that star. When I Googled that star, what's the distance? 1,800 light years. And what year did this happen? 1977.
Wow.
So it's a lot going on up there in the sky, man. We just don't know what it is. We don't understand it. I'm not saying it's real or artificial. I'm saying all circumstantial evidence is leading towards potentially artificial. In America, if you have enough circumstantial evidence, you can convict somebody of a crime.
Right.
If you want to convict this object of the crime of being artificial, we have enough evidence that it might be. Yeah.
God, do you think they're friendly or not friendly if it is artificial? And what would be their purpose of coming here? I know there's other reasons, but I'm just curious your thoughts on it.
Well, I think it's definitely friendly, benevolent. And the reason why I think it's friendly, because if they were going to do something, they would have done it. If you take a journey of 1,800 light years to come check out a solar system that is giving the signature of life, you want to see what's going on there. Now, the fact that they came through and didn't do anything tells me a couple things from my opinion. First of all, why come here? I believe that by the time they picked up a signature of us experimenting with nuclear explosives, splitting the atom, that sends a subatomic frequency that echoes throughout the entire universe. So any advanced civilization anywhere within the universe can actually detect a nuclear signature if you have the right technology. And so they picked up on that. Oh, they learned how to split the atom in this sector of space. Let's go check it out. Let's go see what's happening. And so they decided to come take a look, because now we're getting to the point of advanced technology where we might even have warp technology capability, different levels of the ability to harness the energy of our star and so forth and so on by the time they get here. But as they fly by, they begin scanning our communications frequencies. They begin to analyze all of our data on the our quote-unquote internet. They're downloading swaths of data because they want to get intel. Just like before we invaded country, we go get intelligence. We come back with everything. We know what they had for breakfast and dinner. We know how much corn they got in their poop before they go to the bathroom, right? So they do the same thing to us. Imagine a civilization that can travel 1,800 light years. They have all of our data, in my opinion. And then they look at the data and they go, they're unaliving their children in the streets. They are fighting race wars because of how light reflects off of their skin and bounces back. So, the reflection of photons off their skin is depicting how they treat each other. In other words, racism. They are battling over polytricks. 8 billion people are being controlled by less than 100 people. And they owe a total of probably $300 trillion in debt to who? When all the resources are on the same planet that they live on. And then they do the final analysis. Where's these atomics at? And they realize that we have atomic weapons, 30,000 of them pointed back at ourselves while we're still on the planet. And they say, you know what? This is a flyby, no go, no meet and greet this time. This is a ghetto. We're going to keep on moving, and maybe we'll check back on them in 2,000 years. Because right now, they also scan our data from military and saw that we just sent a Hellfire missile from a Reaper drone at a UAP 2 months ago.
Right.
I said, you know what? This ain't the right time. They're not ready yet.
I know I think it was 2019, the Navy announced, and they kind of showed footage of UAPs and UFOs or whatever they want to call them now. Yeah. They kind of exposed that and gave us a few grainy images and things like that. Why do you think that happened?
Well, what's happening, we meaning the civilians of the world, are getting too much technology now.
Okay.
We have private satellites, We have my cell phone can zoom into craters on the moon. I have an S25 Galaxy Ultra, right? And so we're getting so much tech now, and there's so many eyes in the sky that we're getting access to. They know that we're going to start seeing more of these things. It's not that there are more coming, that we can just see them now. So they want to control the narrative, and they realize it's a great way to make a lot of money and siphon a lot of money out of the people, because once they take control of the narrative, no more UFOs, now they're UAPs.
Right.
Unexplained aerial phenomenon now. This is a new era. No foil hats here.
Right.
It's word salad. Now they've taken the acronym and converted it. Now they have the power to control the acronym. Now the next thing is, We're investigating these things because they're a threat to national security. They're a threat to global security. All of a sudden now, after all these millennia, now they're a threat. And then the next thing is, okay, we're going to need trillions of dollars siphoned into our Space Force so we can build these space-based weapons. And here's what happens with this money. They take this money. Now, Oliver North was stealing the money before.
Right.
He can never account for the money. Then 9/11 came and the
can't
money
even
disappeared.
account for the $22 trillion that's missing, right?
That's
or
right.
something like that.
Yeah,
right?
they can't account for it.
Right.
But now they can account for it because what they'll do is say, we need this money, so we're going to get it approved through Congress. Forget the people. We don't care what the people really want. We're then going to send this money to private corporations so nobody can put a Freedom of Information Act in and see what the hell we're doing with the money. We're going to say we're building space-based weapons. We're going to give it to Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, all these other corporations. And then they're going to take billions of dollars on contract. They're going to develop space-based weapons that never see the light of day. Most of them will never even function. They will chop the pie up. The CEOs will take home multi-millions of dollars. The employees will take home their millions of dollars in pay. 5-6 years later, they go, oh, this one didn't work, scratch it. We'll need another $10 billion to try another one. And they'll keep doing this over. This is the game they play. And they partially develop and partially R&D these projects. They develop a few to keep everyone hooked, but they never really fully develop everything they can develop because they're siphoning the money from the American people, and everyone, including the polytricksters, are getting paid on it. It's a big scam.
So let's talk about, let's say, because with space travel, it's kind of gone private too.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So the Elon Musk of the world, the Richard Bransons, is it possible their Mars plan that we can inhabit Mars?
Oh, yeah. Mars is totally habitable. And that's why Elon has been talking about this for over a decade. Initially, he was like, I want to take 20,000, then it was 50,000, then it was 500,000. Now he wants to take over 1 million people to Mars on a one-way trip, by the way. Now, think about this for a minute. Okay? Think about this. All right, billionaires. Well, trillionaire now, right? He's a trillionaire now. He just made $1 trillion now because he got that $1 trillion package. All the creature comforts of life on Earth. They're one of the most beautiful planets, in this part of the Milky Way galaxy. All these vacation spots and butlers and anything you want. And now you're going to go live on a cold, dry rock with no water, no beautiful scenic views, right? You got to wear a tinfoil hat every day just to keep yourself breathing because you can't breathe the atmosphere and so forth and so on. No infrastructure there. You can die at any moment. You think they're going to go live one-way trip, billionaires, trillionaires?
No.
There's an infrastructure already being built on Mars. It's one of the biggest, best-kept secrets. There's a huge infrastructure already being built on Mars. This thing of we want to investigate Mars and we want to go to Mars is just double talk. In my opinion, they've already been there. They've already been developing Mars. I can send you some images of anomalies on Mars that are with verifiable source links that you can superimpose on this podcast that will blow people away. When they go look them up for themselves from the actual source raw data images from the space agencies, they're going to start scratching their head. What the hell is going on Mars? Why have we spent trillions of dollars collectively of the planet on going to Mars? Because it's not a cold, dry rock. Now, here's finally, they're warming us up with the control again, taking control of the narrative. All of a sudden, the soil on Mars is better for growing crops than the soil on Earth. How do you know that? All of a sudden, Mars is producing an enormous amount of oxygen. I thought there wasn't any oxygen on Mars. It's leaking into the atmosphere at a very slow rate, but it's producing more and more at the very close to the ground level. Carbon monoxide, oxygen, helium, hydrogen, krypton, all the gases needed to support life are there on Mars. Then they said, well, before, no magnetic field. Now, all of a sudden, there's 4 localized magnetic fields on Mars. And because Mars spins about almost the same speed as Earth on its axis, and as it moves around the sun, it creates something called bow shock, and that bends the cosmic rays around the planet, so the DNA-destroying elements don't get to the surface, so anything with DNA can actually survive at the surface of the planet. So now they're just taking control. That we have the REMS data unit. Oh, there's rain on Mars. Oh, there's clouds on Mars. And they keep putting out now the new HD video and photos of what Mars really looks like. Blue sky, algae on the ground. In 2014, all the way through 2022, I went on major podcasts talking about life on Mars. People would ask me, what do you think about life on Mars? Will they ever announce it? I said, listen, in 2025, they're going to announce life on Mars, but it's going to be bacteria or a virus. this year, they made a major announcement the same day that, unfortunately, Charlie Kirk got unalived. The same day was a major international press release live on TV, but nobody saw it because of the unaliving.
Right.
That there's life on Mars. And so they timed it there, maybe by accident on purpose, I'm not sure. But there's life on Mars officially now. Officially, life on Mars. Again, bacteria.
Wow.
Or virus. Now they found these life forms that are creating an extensive amount of gases, and these gases are usually the signature of life. But yeah, Mars, you can survive on the surface, not too high up. It's just like being maybe 14 to 15,000 feet above sea level, or maybe even 17,000, just as in Tibet. With some acclimation period, life can sustain there, and I believe they've been building underground bases there, and some other areas have been worked on. And I think they're creating a breakaway civilization.
So are there humans in Mars building this, or is it more like robots?
It's a combination. They've been using 3D printing on Mars for a very long time. I was the first person to report this back in 2013 on my Forbidden Knowledge Instagram account. 3D printing of houses, of homes, of domiciles, right? Dome-shaped domiciles. And then also utilizing human beings, which I believe are from Earth. And then I believe there's some people already there. And the craziest part is, this is the whole manifest destiny again. If you remember from, Sitting Bull and going back in time where the people came to America, the colonies came to America, and they kind of took over. They said it was their manifest destiny to take over and rule over these people and take the land, which is why I turned my Manifest Destiny class into a reversal of what that frequency was, to show people that the Manifest Destiny is that we're taking everything back. But they came to America and they had the American Holocaust. So over the course of 80 years, they slaughtered 111 million indigenous tribes in the Americas to take the land. And in my opinion, it's another Manifest Destiny going on Mars.
Shit.
Wow. You kind of mentioned that there's a few hundred people that kind of run the world. Mm-hmm. Do you think is that the Illuminati you're referring to, or is that, I don't know what group of people it is. I'm just curious.
So the Illuminati is just one small group, one small secret society.
Okay.
And, JFK was illuminating these secret societies, plural, that existed before he was assassinated. And so what's going on is, if you go back to ancient times, really ancient, I'm talking about pre-dynastic Egypt, you find something called the mystery schools. And in these mystery school teachings, only adept initiates were allowed to come into these secret meetings. This was to teach advanced spiritual knowledge, advanced knowledge of metaphysics, and this knowledge of metaphysics and spirituality was also how to move energy through the body and all these other incredible things. But these schools were only for handpicked people. Over time, the people that ran these schools, according to the ancient Egyptians, they kind of just began to disappear. And then these schools did not disappear. People still had this mystery school. Over time, those schools expanded, and people who weren't adept initiates began to get invited in. And then it went from the power of light to the power of dark. When they understood that you can take these same principles of understanding, the same neuroscience, and you can apply it in a way that you can control the masses. And then they started breaking off into these little sects, and some were, Skull and Crossbones, Illuminati, various different ones. There's over 100 of them that exist. But they all have a base core that funneled back into the mystery schools. So they took something that was about power and light and then lifting and uplifting mankind, and took it and turned it into something dark and control and power, domination.
Wow. Yeah. So I've heard, because I've listened to you about the worship gene that humans have.
Yeah.
Like, how
It's
does
a real thing.
How does that work?
And I want to send you a clip. Maybe you can get some fair use of it on this video, because some people are like, well, where'd you get this information? I want to send you this clip of a scientist that actually discovered this. It's a very old, the worship gene. It exists. The worship gene exists. It's installed in mankind, and it makes you want to worship something outside of yourself. It's why celebrities are celebrities. It's why, Michael Jackson was worshipped as a god, and people would pass out in front of him. You can play a good rock and roll song at a concert and get somebody to pass out, or you can play the same music inside of a church and get the same exact effect. They understood the psyche of mankind. They understood that the best way to make a slave was to have a slave that thought they were honoring God. And by doing that, you can get a person to commit anything, kill anybody, do anything that you want them to do, build any structure, work till their bones fall off. Whatever you want them to do, they will do it because they're honoring the gods. And this is exactly what they did. And this is talked about openly in Egypt. When I take people on tour in Egypt, we use some of the greatest homegrown Egyptian guides, homegrown archaeologists, and they'll tell you that people would line up for miles to bring offerings to the pharaoh to get a blessing from their priests. But the whole thing was a big scam. They were worshiping absolutely nothing. They didn't even realize it. There was no blessing really coming to them. It was just a scam to get the food because these people aren't going to go hunting. They need those offerings. Those offerings are for their barbecue. We even have the evidence of the storehouses where all this stuff would go. So this beguiling of mankind has been going on for eons, and it's still kind of going on today. But it's all about this gene. And when the gene is deactivated, you don't have the need to worship. You don't feel that need, desire to worship anything on the outside anymore. You look inside. And another scientist did it with a magnetic cap. He took a cap, put it on this girl's head, amped up the electromagnetic frequency, and she had an out-of-body experience, and she had a spiritual experience. When he took the cap and turned down the frequency, this experience went away. So there's this pre-wiring of the human body that's just designed to perceive some of these higher dimensional beings and these worshiping of entities and beings. But the truth be told, is there a God? I believe there is. I believe there's a God that created this entire universe. But what I do believe, though, is that a lot of these texts that we've been reading are written by men and people that were written in a way designed to get us to do work for them and to be a slave to them. The true, actual creator itself, I don't believe is really truthfully in any of the texts at all. The actual entity that created this entire realm, I believe, is on the outside of this realm and is not involved in any of these writings, unfortunately. I do believe that believe that it exists because the evidence of the science of creation exists. We know that we're living inside of a fractal holographic matrix. It means that explains the format or the function of how this realm was actually created. It's created because this realm is a light shadow, a shadow of light, not a shadow of darkness. In a laboratory, scientists they created something called an 8th dimensional quasi-crystal. And then they tilted this at a particular angle and it cast down a light shadow of a 4th dimensional quasi-crystal. And when they tilted that in a particular angle, it cast down a sphere, which is actually our universe. So we're living in the shadow of a higher dimension. So and whatever created this dimension is on the outside of it, not inside of it with us.
So who wrote the Sumerian tablets and the Epic of Gilgamesh?
Well, the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Sumerian tablets are all written by these ancient Babylonian and Akkadian peoples. These are the people of ancient Sumeria, which runs from Turkey all down through Iraq and Iran and all those areas. And ancient Mesopotamia even went all the way down into Africa. All right? And Africa actually was really a part of those areas in ancient times. Then we got the fake lines and the borders that came out, and all of a sudden, this is Africa down here, and this is, the Middle East up here. It used to be one big area. But these people were only writing, a lot of the texts that we found were written by scribes. So one of these quote-unquote gods, like the tablet of Shamash, for example. Shamash was an Anunnaki god, and we know that he was considered to be a god because of his height and his size. In the tablets, he's depicted as being about 3 times larger than an average human being. Even when he's sitting down, he towers over people. And then he had a scribe, and his scribe, as he would tell his scribe what he wants, he would take down the words, and he would actually put this onto clay tablets. He would use a stylus to etch into wet clay something called cuneiform text. And most of them had scribes that would do this. So the text was written by people, not by aliens or Anunnaki. But these people were called Anuna. The oldest term was Anuna, much later called the Anunnaki. And supposedly, there were these people that engaged mankind. The same people written in the ancient Egyptian texts, they were called the Netters or the Netiru. Same people, just a different name to describe them. The Aboriginals have a name for them. They call them Pleiadians. The Hopi tribe in America call them Pleiadians. No matter where you go on the planet, the tribes, indigenous tribes, have a name for these people. And they came at the time of Zep Tepi, according to the ancient Egyptians, or the ancient Kemetic people, where they turned the gods came from heaven to earth and turned mud into a kingdom and walked amongst us. And according to all accounts from all over the world, these people actually not only walked, but lived amongst the people for quite some time.
So the Anunnaki, they're aliens? Or is that too simple of a description?
I believe that they're, like my mom called them, advanced beings. An alien meaning not little green people with antennas on their head.
Yeah.
Right. But if you read a lot of the ancient texts, like the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, the Indian Vedas, specifically the Rig Veda, you find a battle called the Battle of the 10 Kings. These battles took place in space. These battles later became the Greek battle of the gods and the war of the heavens in the Bible. But these battles were ancient battles, and when you look at the origins of some of these battles, it goes back to the Pleiadian star system. The Pleiades is mentioned anywhere from the biblical text all the way going back in time to some of the most ancient texts you can discover, and all these ancient cultures revered the Pleiades and said that's where the origins of people are from. That human beings aren't even originally from this planet, and now modern science is starting to say, geneticists are saying, human beings don't really synchronize with Earth that well. We don't really feel like humans are from Earth. This is new peer-reviewed science coming out, new statements from peer-reviewed scientists coming out. And so when you look back at this sector of the sky and these texts, they talk about these wars that took place in space. And in one of these texts, the Mahabharata, they had a weapon called the Brahmahama Astra. And this weapon was so powerful it could destroy any man on 3 worlds. They say they were destroying planets with this weapon. And once it was released, you couldn't call it back. In other words, you couldn't stop it. You couldn't thwart the attack. And according to my research now, this is my own input, I feel like people in that sector of the sky in the Pleiades were leaving that sector of the sky and creating breakaway civilizations on other star systems like Orion, Aldebaran, Ursa Minor, Ursa Major, Sirius A, B, and C. According to the tribe in Mali, Africa, the Dogon tribe, they claim to have been visited by people from Sirius B. Now, they claimed this long before we had the technology to even see Sirius B, because Sirius B is a star that ran out of fuel. Not only did it run out of fuel, turn into a white dwarf, they knew how much the mass of this star was. Now, how can an ancient tribe out of Africa know how much mass a white dwarf is? They knew the orbital period of a trinary star system, light years away. And they knew the names, the shapes, and the sizes of every planet in our solar system from the outside edge coming all the way back in till you get to Earth and even to the sun. They knew all the orbital periods. They knew all of it. They said that the Nomo from Sirius B taught them this. We couldn't figure this out until like the 1970s. So I'm telling you, somebody came from somewhere and engaged our ancient ancestors, and the evidence is in their star lore.
So who was responsible for the worship gene? Was it the Anunnaki?
Anunnaki. So at the time that they landed on Earth, which was about 450,000 years ago, they began doing the work themselves. They didn't enslave anybody at that time. They had a worker race that they brought with them called the Igigi. You can read about them in the Epic of Atrahasis and the Enuma Elish and the 7 Tablets of Creation. And so the Igigi were not slaves. They were this worker race of Anunnaki beings. In other words, if you have a construction site, you have the master architect, you have an engineer, you have a foreman, and then you got the workers, right? Mm-hmm. And so the workers are going to be doing the labor, although they're not slaves. They're getting a paycheck, okay? But they're not going to be able to do the engineering, and they're not going to be able to do the architectural work. And so that's how the system was set up. So these people laid out this blueprint. They taught human beings how to do the labor. But before they did that, they were doing it themselves. And they were cleaning out the Tigris and Euphrates River for the purpose of creating irrigation fields and all this stuff to make the area, it was a very arid area. They wanted to make it to where you can inhabit it. And also the Igigi, according to the Epic of Atrahasis, were working on Mars. They were complaining about harsh working conditions, consistent harsh working conditions, and also they were complaining about not having any women. It's straight up in the text. You can go to the British Museum or go online and you can read this. And so they came to Earth to go to battle against the architect, the engineer, and the foreman. Who was that? Enki, Enlil, and Anu. Those 3 in South Africa at a place called Adam's Calendar. And that's where they find the very first oldest gold mines ever mined by human beings, one of the resources that the Anunnaki were mining. And it's still there till this day. People go on tours to it. I was going to go on tour to it until the pandemic came that one year. But anyway, so they were going to go to war against these 3 leaders. And Enki said, I have an idea. We can actually thwart this war. We can stop this war from happening. There's an existing being on the planet. They're talking about our cousins now. Not quite Homo sapien sapien like us, but Homo sapien, hominid. They said we can add our essence to it and get it to bear the load of the gods. And so an agreement was made, and then Enki, who was a master geneticist in this text, began the genetic modifications. Eventually, he created something that we now call a clone, okay? And he was able to make these clones, and they started working with the clones. But they weren't happy with these clones. And the cloning technique, by the way, we take people to see it in Egypt. We just got back again. At the temples, the cloning technique and the instructions on how to make clones is in the hieroglyphs. We take people to see them every year in 3 different temples, by the way. And then so they weren't happy with the clones because the clones couldn't reproduce. If you take a lion and a tiger, you get a ligon, but a ligon can't make any more babies. This was the problem. You got to keep making more. So they decided to try to make them reproduce in a way of having them give birth. So Isis says, I'm going to take one to term. So she takes the egg out of one of the hominid women. They add their essence to it. That's some type of genetic modification in my translation. She puts it in her own womb, takes it to term for 10 months. And there's a famous cylinder scroll of her holding up the baby. She says, my hands have made it, the first Adamu, which means first man. And this began the generations of Isis, the Genesis, the Gen-Isis, the Genesis. The book of Genesis are the generations of Isis. And that's the beginning. Now, he couldn't mate with these clones because he did, but they weren't giving birth as well. So then they took some DNA from him and created Eve, and then they mated them, and they said, oh, we got it. Now we have 2 that can mate and have a child, and then they began reproducing more Adams and reproducing more Eves. You can't get 8 billion people. I got to express this to the nth degree. Anybody who knows dog breeding, you can't get 8 billion people out of 2 people. Anybody who knows what happens when people inbreed, this is why inbreeding is against the law, you're going to create all type of birth defects, and you're going to create situations where you're going to get stillbirths, and by the 2nd generation, you're going to have people born with all kind of weird defects, and in the 3rd generation, they can't even be born anymore. You have to have genetic diversity. So they created this pool of genetic diversity, and in my opinion, Eden was an outside type of a laboratory, experimental laboratory, because these people, when you read other texts, you discover they had times to mate, and you couldn't mate out of your time. This is cross-mating. They were controlling the whole scenario, and they had guards with weapons guarding this place. So we're looking at a controlled laboratory experiment to breed humans, just like we breed dogs.
What did these kind of people look like the Anunnaki?
They look just like us.
They look just like us.
Except they had bigger bodies, much bigger bodies. And some of the skulls and bones have been found, the Paracas skulls. If you research the Paracas skulls, they found these Paracas skulls, these type of skulls. They call them Paracas out of Peru, but the type of skull it is have been found all over the world. I'll send you some images as well. And they are in museums. They're not like fantasy. They're in museums. You can actually go and see these things. I have a replica of one at home. The jawbone is 2/3 larger. The skull is elongated, which some of these ancient Egyptian pharaohs had these elongated skulls, which you can't see unless you go to the actual museum. There's photography and photo and video are forbidden. So you have to go there in person, and then you can see these skulls. And you're like, oh my God, no wonder why they won't let us take pictures of this stuff. These people had these big heads. And the same thing in Peru and other places. So they were big people. They were very big people. They had big bones. But they started mating with people, and they started getting smaller and smaller and smaller. But some accounts are as much as 20 feet tall. If you read the Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the most incredible writings in the history of Earth, it's in the British Museum. It's being taught in universities now. It's the full story of Noah's Ark. Gilgamesh was a giant. He was half human, half Anunnaki. And he was a massive, damn near 20-foot tall giant. And they even fashioned him a friend to go on a journey with him. And that friend was created, not through a womb, but actually put together almost like a machine. Enkidu went on a journey with him, and Enkidu has some significant power, just like he did. But it's a big story. But anyway, it's a grand story, man. It's a really big story, and a lot of people, it's a lot of dry reading, so a lot of people don't research this stuff. But if you really dig into it, it's an incredible, incredible epic, and you begin to realize that a lot of the religious texts are paralleled from taking small pieces and chunks out of this ancient text to create their own side stories. Like I said, the full version of Noah's Ark is in the Epic of Gilgamesh, and the flood tablet was discovered only like 5 years ago. So they know how the ark was made. The ark wasn't a big boat; it was actually a sphere that they built, and it was cut up like a pie on the inside. And he was told to get his local flora and fauna and his local livestock. I didn't think 2 mosquitoes and 2 cockroaches were coming on I didn't think, 2 rats were getting on the boat either. So that's a whole fabricated story. We're still telling that fallacy today. The truth is he was told to get his local flora and fauna, and he built a disc-shaped ship, not a giant boat. Yeah.
So who's trying to keep this information hidden?
Yeah. Well, the elite oligarchs that control the flow of all information, they don't want this information to get out because it will destroy their power over humanity. Think about this. All of the religious systems are collectively earning trillions of dollars a year in revenue, more than all tech companies in Silicon Valley combined. Forget AI and these $1 trillion NVIDIA, forget that. They're making more than that. And they fund the polytricksters. Their money drives politics. It's a huge collaborative effort. So you have politics, I call it polytricks, and you have the religious systems. Both of those two are funding, and the politics are controlling. And when you destroy one area and one aspect of reality dealing with what might have really happened in the ancient past, you take away potentially trillions of dollars from the polytrickster system, which takes away a lot of their control because they're not getting funded, and all of a sudden, the illusion begins to collapse.
I always tell people, like, at least I always personally feel like the moment an alien lands on Wilshire Boulevard, I'm just making it a known street, and walks out, to me, you got to throw the Bible out the window.
You got to throw it out the window. It's over.
You got to throw the Bible out the window.
It's over.
It's
over.
a wrap.
Yeah.
Because then there's something else going on.
The Vatican knows. So the Vatican made a powerful statement, a very powerful official press release years ago. They have an observatory now in Arizona. It's called the Lucifer Telescope.
Wow.
Yeah, they invested millions in that one. Underneath it is an underground base. Anyone can look this information up. Lucifer is their acronym for a longer name, but it's called the Lucifer Telescope. They created that name.
Crazy name for them.
Right, the light bearer. And the official press release behind that came out saying that they can't wait. They believe there's life out there in the universe, and they can't wait to baptize the first alien. That's the Vatican. Yeah. So
man, apparently the Vatican has all these different parts of the Bible that they haven't released.
Oh, there's so much. There's so much. There's so much stuff out there. There's the Gospel of the Holy 12, which talks about where Jesus was when he disappeared from the Bible as a child, moving through Egypt and other areas, going to Tibet, going to India, before reappearing in the Bible at the age of 32. There's hundreds of texts that didn't make it, apocrypha texts that didn't make it into the biblical text all over the place. There's a lot. And it doesn't take anything away or discount the fact that the story is, there's a fundamental basis to the story where you can get enlightenment. There's things in the Bible that are actually good. If you apply some of those things in your life, you can actually get a good result. But mankind, anything is corrupted once a man touch it. And so there's aspects of the biblical text where it's really massaged and remixed by a human being for the purpose and control of suppressing women, toxic male dominance, racism, slavery, I'm better than you, I'm a chosen one, and all these kind of crazy ideas that come out of the text is all designed for divide and conquer so that the people at the top can control the people at the bottom.
Are the people at the top that devious? Is the plan that well made and followed? And that's the part that it's just hard for me to believe, and I know it's definitely something else going on, that people can be that evil.
The illusion is so great, it will escape your perception. That's inside of something called the Illuminati Secret Covenant. They said the illusion would be so great, it will escape their perception. They have mastery over information flow. They have mastery over neurolinguistics. They have mastery over applied neuroscience. They have mastery over everything we eat, see, taste, touch, feel, and where we can go and where we can't even go. They control every aspect of our lives from the top to the bottom, and they have us believing that we're quote-unquote free.
When did that start? It started that before the Rothschilds, after the Rothschilds?
Way before. It started eons ago. If you go to the ancient Sumerian tablets, you discover where the origins of inflation come from. Okay, this is crazy. So they found hundreds of IOUs. They're in the museum now. on stone tablets. So I have a farm with wheat, right? Wheat was the equivalent of money back then. And this is 6,000 years ago, by the way. You have a farm, you have lambs. I go take 2 satchels of wheat, you give me a lamb. Boom, fair trade.
Right.
Now I come back again because there's an event coming up. There's a special religious tradition coming up, and I got to come get another lamb. I bring you the wheat. You go, there's a run on lambs. I can only give you half. I'll give you this IOU. We have the evidence of what I'm talking about. This is a real thing that actually happened. So they give this guy an IOU on this stone tablet. This is fiat currency. It doesn't even, what is it backed by? It's backed by nothing like we have today. He takes this stone. It has value because it's got writing on it, just like a dollar. Puts it in his pocket. He goes away. He says, man, I really got to get the other half of this lamb. My family's hungry. He comes back. I'm sorry, man. This has been still a run. We haven't recovered from the last pagan ritual. You can only get a quarter now. So your tablet's only worth a quarter of a lamb. So you come back, you end up with a quarter. You've only got now a half and a quarter. You got 3/4 of a lamb for your 2 full satchels of wheat. That's inflation in ancient times. And we have all the evidence of this sitting in the museum. This is the origins of fiat currency. This control system, they claim, was given to them by the gods. They didn't create this system themselves. So we're talking, man, eons and eons ago, this whole system of fiat currency, of divide and conquer, I'm better than you and you're better than me, and all this stuff, it goes back for thousands of years, because they realize that when you can get people fighting each other and get them in this economic scarcity mindset, you can easily manipulate them. Add fear to that, and it's over. You now can dominate them.
What's your thoughts on crypto?
Crypto's good. I actually like crypto. Now, with anything, you have good and you have evil, yin and yang, up and down, white and black. So there's always going to be good aspects of it, and there's always going to be dark aspects of it, depending on how you decide to utilize it, right?
Right.
And so with crypto, you have a situation where if you are understanding DeFi, if you understand decentralized finance, if you understand what these coins do and the scarcity of the particular coins, you can make educated decisions on which ones to interact with. But also now there could be nefarious acts done with crypto by governments, by creating certain types of stable coins that can control everything that we do. So there's good and there's bad. And my thing is, people who understand crypto now and learn it and actually put all their coin on a hard wallet and understand what DeFi actually is and use it the right way have a great opportunity to make a lot of money. The people that don't understand that now and end up falling into these apps and buying all this crypto on all these apps, they're putting themselves in a very precarious situation, because once an app goes down, all your crypto is gone along with the app, like FTX did. So there's this learning curve, and also understanding that if you don't become wealthy within the next 5 to 8 years, you're probably never going to be wealthy. And the way that it's going to be run with crypto and credits, everything will be tied to your platform. Everything will be on the blockchain. If you run past a red light, there's no cop pulling you over. They'll just take credits out of your account. If you are late on a bill, they'll take the money out of your account if it's available. If it gets to the point where there's no money available, you'll be an outcast. You'll be out on the street. If you say something online that they don't like, they'll take credits from you. And the second time, they'll just delete everything. They'll delete you from the system with the press of one button. This is where we're going as a society.
So I was wondering, what's the fascination with gold?
Well, gold is a technological element, okay? And if you really understand gold, you understand that its value for technology. So now what they did was, in ancient times, these quote-unquote gods would always get people to mine gold for them. And people thought that they were mining gold and they were tricked into believing it had some great adornment value. They would wear it as adornment, right, from their teeth, necklaces, bracelets, bangles, whatever. In the end, the people that they were giving it to were turning it into technology. All the tech you have in this room right now would not exist or function without gold inside of them at this exact moment. Gold is an amazing electrical transmitter. So what you put in on one side, you get 100% on the other side. So if I had a copper wire, even with insulation on it, I'm going to lose some of the energy in friction. So the energy is going to dissipate over distance. Gold, you don't have that problem. Also, gold is extremely malleable. You could take it down to almost, a tenth of a human hair. And you can utilize it inside of microchips, microprocessors, quantum chips, AI chips. It's a very, very incredible device. And then also it reflects radiation back into space. So it's incredible. Like one of my cars, actually the car that I was brought here in, that Mercedes, that the driver picked me up in, the owner, It has gold inside of the gold flakes inside of the actual windows. Why? Instead of having window tint, it just reflects the heat back out into space. Also, of course, radiation hardened microchips for space flight, like SpaceX and the old shuttle system. They all have gold in them. And of course, astronauts have gold shields on their helmets to reflect the sunlight out. Gold is, and all the satellites use gold. Gold is, you need it for an advanced civilization. If you don't have gold, the way we understand technology today, we cannot be advanced. So these beings understood that, and they needed an enormous amount of gold. Matter of fact, the government ran out of gold. This is about almost 2 decades ago, and they started a huge program called We Buy Gold. And they sucked all the gold back in off the streets that they could. They sucked in millions of tons of gold off the streets. People were running to sell their gold like crazy. And the government took all that gold. It was a government program. They needed that gold for technology, which they've been building since then.
I remember that.
Yeah.
So I guess the Anunnaki knew there was gold in this planet, and that's why they came here.
Well, one of the reasons. It wasn't just for gold, but they did know that there was gold here because you can just analyze the light of a planet at any distance, and with the right technology, you can analyze and discover what types of elements potentially exist within that planet's surface, and also within the atmosphere. And so, by scanning, they realized it had great potential for gold and different other types of ore. If you go to the Nazca, Peru, and go to the Nazca lines, that's not runways for airplanes because they didn't need runways. They had anti-gravity flying vehicles called Vimanas. But if you go there, which I was there in person, you see these scoops all over the place of this soil, of the land. These scoops that were taking out thousands of, maybe even hundreds of thousands. This is like mining for resources. They mined this planet for all types of resources, which is what they needed for their technology.
So how old is the Earth?
The Earth is billions of years old. So the Earth could be as much as close to 5 billion years old. So if you look at there was a planet in the solar system named Tiamat in ancient times. According to the Enuma Elish, this planet was 4 to 6 times larger than Earth. And it was technically at the time the 3rd planet from the sun, not Earth. Earth didn't exist yet. And gravitationally, our solar system in its early stages had captured this other brown dwarf star that had planets orbiting it. One of them crashed into Tiamat, and it exploded. It went through its heart, as it says in the Enuma Elish. Now think about it. This is 6,000 to 8,000 year old text talking about planetary alignments, gravitational fields getting confused, and planets crashing into planets. Who writes this kind of stuff back then, right? And then when it did that, it exploded. As it exploded, it had a lot of land, water, and life on this planet, by the way. A huge chunk swung away, recoalesced as the Earth, bringing all the organic material and water with it. And it says in the text, we separated the waters from the waters. That made it into the Old Testament of the Bible. Separated the waters from the waters. This is the water from Tiamat coming to the water of Earth. It then recoalesced, became the Earth. Now, this Tiamat went into this explosion. Some of it flung out to the outer edges of our solar system, a place called the inner Oort cloud. The inner Oort cloud are remnants of blown up planets and debris from the creation of the solar system. And then the rest of it became the asteroid belt, orbiting just outside the orbit of Mars. So Mars, and then the asteroid belt, and then this other planet. Well, there's Mars, and then there's a planet after Mars that nobody knows about named Ceres, Ceres. It has more fresh water on it than Earth. And when we flew by it, the lights were on, by the way, about a decade ago.
So there's a planet behind Mars.
There's a planet behind Mars called Ceres, Ceres, and this planet has fresh water on it. The lights were on. So they tried to say, well, maybe it's just ice particles reflecting in the sunlight. But when the probe flew to the backside, on the side that was quote unquote dark, the lights were on the dark side too. Yeah, and then after that you have the asteroid belt.
The moon. Mm-hmm. The moon, is the moon a satellite?
The moon is a satellite in a geological way, but also I think in a technological way too. So the moon itself, according to the Enuma Elish, used to be a satellite of Tiamat. Okay. Now the moon to me did not occur as a collision with an object with Earth, because the moon is primarily made of something called helium-3, a very cool and clean fuel source, damn near unlimited supply on the surface. If you have a interplanetary civilization and you can create this moon station or this satellite that has all this helium-3 on it, you can cleanly power devices and technology almost unlimited. Now, here's the crazy part. As the Earth chunk swung away and became Earth, this gravitational field tugged along with it, supposedly this moon. The moon then, according to ancient texts, was then put into place, put into this very weird distance from Earth and this very strange orbit that it has, and this tidally locked spin on its axis so we can only see one side. A researcher named Chris Maroney, he's an incredible anomaly hunter researcher. He has a channel called Mars Anomalies. He looked up the USGS.gov official deep penetrating radar scan of the moon. It penetrated the moon 30 meters. And in this scan, without any editing at all, you can see beams beneath the surface, what look like massive columns and beams, which makes sense because when NASA hit the moon with one of the objects, they heard it ring like a bell for hours.
Right.
So the moon potentially is this hollow, artificially created object that has a fuel source on the surface and is inhabited maybe on the internal side or was inhabited on the internal side. The Navy, or not the Navy, but the military sent an object there. They sent this thing called the Clementine mission, the Clementine satellite. And this satellite, I knew it wasn't going to come back because the name Clementine is an old song. You were lost and gone forever, oh my darling Clementine.
Right.
It went there in a low lunar orbit, and it scanned the surface, sent back gigs of data, which anyone can download, which show anomalies on the other side of the moon. And it hit something, supposedly, and it got stuck and never came back. But there's so much stuff up there. The whole moon mission was a reconnaissance mission. Yes, we went to the moon, but yes, we lied about it. So people are very confused about this moon situation.
Right.
No, we couldn't go to the moon, and we got the Van Allen radiation belts and all these things. The Van Allen radiation belt was a concern when Van Allen brought it up. But after they did research on the Van Allen radiation belt, they realized there are magnetic fields whipping out of Earth that open up what they call highways through the radiation belt. And even sitting in the heart of the radiation belt, you need to be inside of it for 3 months in an unprotected, non-radiation hardened vessel to get a radiation dose that will kill you. And it only takes a couple days to get through it, to get to the moon through one of these highways. So they created a launch trajectory, a window that took them through that. The next thing is they projected back to Earth some real footage, and they also used some created footage. Because why? The stuff that's up there, they do not want us to know what's there. And one of the radio frequencies that came back during the moon landing, Buzz Aldrin is heard saying, and you can pull up a recording of this, probably get a capture of it on YouTube and as a little bit, a clip you can use, a snippet you can use with fair use. He says, they landed across the crater from us. He says, they're watching us. Now, this was backed up by Neil Berggren, the head of NACA, the guy who was one of the people who created NASA. His resume for what he in astrophysics goes down the street and around the corner. He's in an interview, and he says in the interview that she's in the control room during the landing, by the way. He says a ship landed across the crater, and people got out. He says maybe 8 to 10 foot tall people. And his exact words, when the lady said to him, how did they look? He said they were black. They were very black. That's his exact words. So I can find you a clip of that too. So that's just mind-boggling. This guy is like the highest level in science to where you get a clearance to sit in the control room and watch the landing from the control room in Houston.
Right.
And then he comes on an interview and makes that kind of a statement. Very interesting.
So there's a theory that the original black people in America were black, and then that the whole slave trade was exaggerated.
Yeah.
Have you done some research on that?
That theory's been completely exaggerated. So let me break it down for you in a much better way. So, were black people already in America when the slave trade started? Absolutely. There's a real good book called They Came Before Columbus. A lot of great resources, a lot of great references in that book. And we realized that people came from Africa and were already doing a trade and barter with the Mayans long before anybody ever came to the Americas, European. Matter of fact, this was so long ago, they weren't dealing directly with Mayans initially, they were dealing with the Teotihuacans, a culture that existed before the Mayans. And remnants of the Teotihuacans and the African trade exist in the jungles down there. We left these gigantic big stone Olmec heads. And so not only did they trade and barter, but they also even married in with each other and started having children in the Americas. And this was the beginning of the black African race in the actual Americas. We became some of the indigenous tribes here. So some tribes are already here long before Columbus. Long before Columbus accidentally thought he was heading to India and ran into the Caribbean islands. So that's how he got here. He thought he was in India. That's how we got the name Indians. So we started calling people Indians, which is actually an insult to an indigenous American. They're not Indians. They're indigenous Americans, natives. But we call them Indians because of Christopher Columbus. That's an insult to them. And so people were here long before 1492.
How did they enslave us?
Okay, so this is where it happens. So the people here.
If we were already here.
Yeah. There were people here, but not enough to create a workforce like what they wanted. They then were going to Sierra Leone and other places in Africa, off the coast of Africa, and tribes that had captured their enemies were then selling those people to the Europeans.
Right.
The Europeans were bringing them over on boats, and they were creating this workforce because it was easier to take a dominated and already, people who were already taken over and already had lost, versus trying to go to a new land. And there were very scattered pockets of these tribes throughout the Americas. It wasn't like there was a bustling hundreds of millions of people all around. They came, there was a lot of open land, a lot of open areas just there for the taking, there to be used. And so they brought these people over. So they created this slave trade, and they were coming back and forth with these slaves. Well documented. I mean, well documented. They kept great logs, unfortunately, for some of the people. I mean, the logs are, heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching logs. But they kept the logs. So we know that the slave trade was real. But also, when they got to America, they started dealing with some of these tribes and teaching them how to run their slaves too, and how to control and sell their slaves to other parts of the country. And so in some way, even the indigenous natives started getting involved in the slave trade. This is one of the biggest secrets out there. So even the natives of America were involved in the slave trade and enslaving people. It was just a wild, wild west situation all around. But at the end of the day, we have to remember one thing. 111 million indigenous natives were here over the course of 70 years. We eradicated them. We meaning the colonials that came over. They killed over 70 million indigenous people. It's the American Holocaust that no one ever talks about. Wow. I did a podcast about this, and I labeled every individual native war that was waged. It took me a long time. It took 4 hours. And then I named how many natives died in each one of those wars. It came out to 111 million. Yeah.
Wow.
Like I said, they kept great logs.
Are the original people of this planet black?
Well, when you look into the text, the first thing you read in like the Sumerian text, there was this one battle going on, this one war. And in this war, there was this weapon unleashed. And Enki went to his father and said, the evil wind is killing everyone. The black-faced people of the land are dying. Their hair is falling out. Their eyes are bleeding. Their fingernails are falling off. Sounds like radiation poisoning to me. And that's one of the oldest accounts that I discovered. The more scientific data had just came out, and you can go look up, where they're saying that out of the black race comes all other races. And this is not a racist statement, but out of the black race creates Caucasians, creates Asians, creates all these other races, blue eyes, blonde hair, the dominant gene, right. And they showed this and they proved it scientifically in this amazing documentary that's out that anyone can go watch. It's been peer reviewed, it's been looked at, and it's been accepted by the scientific community. So this isn't a thing to make black dominance talk. I'm trying to make black people look like we're the top of the pile or whatever. I'm just saying this is something that anyone can look up and research, and they discover that every race comes out of black. It just is what it is. It's actual peer-reviewed science. Yeah, every race on this planet has been enslaved. So I don't, white people were enslaving white people. Black people were enslaving black people. Right. Indigenous tribes were enslaving other indigenous. I mean, this is a big problem we have on this planet: enslavement. The most recent enslavement that we know of, that's the biggest one that we can recognize right now, is, of course, the enslavement of black people. But there's still enslavement going on. In Pakistan, there are people who have been enslaved for hundreds of years, their families' bloodlines. Right now, today, you can go to Pakistan, you can buy a person out of their slavery. There are slaves living in Pakistan at this moment right now.
Wow.
Oh yeah, today. Somebody.
Are they? Is it more like indentured servant, or are they actual? That's kind of like the same thing.
It's the same thing. Yeah.
Okay.
It's the same thing. There's some people. Some families were banned or were given like indefinite slavery over as many generations.
Wow.
And like this one guy just the other day went there and he paid off a slave debt so they can free the slaves. Just one family though. He couldn't afford all of them. Hundreds of them. In Libya, they're still selling black people today, $400 a head. So Libya, you can go to Libya right now, and Arabs have black people piled up in rooms. I'm talking about body to body, handcuffed and chained right now in this very moment. And you can go there and buy one for $400 today in 2025. Yeah. Yeah. I made a big push against this a few years ago. I made it all the way to the UN. I had thousands of people calling the UN to complain about this. I had Taraji P. Henson reposting this, Chris Brown reposting this. Everyone was telling everyone, call the UN now. We called the UN so much we blew up their phone lines. They couldn't even get through anymore. And the UN still didn't do anything about it. You know who was responsible for this?
Who's that?
Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. They went there and they took out Gaddafi. And when they took him out, because he was getting ready to make that gold-backed dollar based on real African money, real value, they took him out, and that removed his control over the region and allowed all these other people to get in there and destroy the entire way that everything was running. They had a big coup, and now slavery is just blossoming over there like you wouldn't believe. Yeah.
So Gaddafi used to be a friend of the United States, right?
Well, he was initially, but then he decided to back away and start his own. He's like, he realized this fiat currency ain't where it's at. We're going to make this gold-backed dollar. We're going to get all the African countries in on this, and we're going to have real value, and we're going to get away from the petrodollar. And so, like Hillary Clinton said in that famous interview, we came, we saw, and he died till she laughed. Yeah. So they took him out. They took him out and destabilized the region, and now, because of what they did, slavery abound.
It's chaos.
Chaos. Yeah.
Who built the pyramids?
Good question. So the pyramids were built by people, human beings.
What they were?
Yeah, but let me tell you why and how. Okay, remember that scenario I told you before? You have a system. You have a master architect.
Right.
That was Thoth, the Atlantean priest king. He claimed to have built the Great Pyramid in the Emerald Tablets. You have an engineer. You have a foreman. You have these people that taught people how to utilize this technology to build. So who did the actual labor of the pyramids? People did the labor. But they were under the tutelage and under the teaching of these advanced beings who had the architecture, who had the blueprint. When you look at some of the records we've discovered around the Great Pyramid area, for example, at Giza, we have records that these people were not slaves. They were compensated. We found the payrolls. We found the insurance policies. If you got a broken arm or a broken leg, we found out that they were taken care of and they were treated for their wounds and injuries. These people were not slaves. No slaves built the pyramids. None. Zero. The pyramid can't be built by slaves because in slavery, the first basis of slavery is ignorance. You cannot have an educated slave because they know too much. Why am I a damn slave? We're going to revolt against you. There's more of us than you. All of a sudden, epiphany, we'll just take over. You guys can't stop us. 8 of you and 1,000 of us.
Right.
You want dumb slaves. You want them to do basic menial work. You don't want them understanding technological masterpieces. The Great Pyramid, each stone, I've been there many, many times. Each stone that builds that one pyramid is individually cut and created for the exact location that it sets in. The Great Pyramid is a gigantic 2 million block puzzle. No two stones are alike. So nobody went to a quarry and cut out blocks like Legos and got them back to the site and stacked them up. Didn't work that way. The pyramid is designed like an interlocking piece of a puzzle with no mortar. So each piece is created on the fly for the exact spot that it sits in, and each piece is an interlocking piece of a puzzle. Yeah.
But Billy, I remember like when I was in school, they said to move some of these blocks, it would take 21 tractors.
Yeah.
Or what have you. How were people doing it back then?
Yeah. So if you look at the potential descriptions of what was said in some of the texts, they use several different methods. In one method, Thoth talks about combining Thoth is an ancient Egyptian god who ruled over the land of ancient Kemet for 16,000 years, according to the ancient Egyptians. That's not me. That's them. In this text, he says, utilizing light waves, and sound. So we're talking about photons and somatic frequencies. You combine the two together in a particular way, you can actually create solid matter. He said he would manifest stone. And then that sounds crazy. Man, this guy's crazy. But what happened 2 years ago? Scientists in the laboratory, they must have read that tablet. They took photons and they took somatic frequencies, sound, put them together and created for the very first time in history solid matter. It made Physics magazine. So they manifested solidity, solid matter, out of light and sound. We now know how to do that. This was talked about 36,000 years ago. They also utilize anti-gravity clearly because there's no way you can move any of these stones to some of the positions they're in without defeating gravity. In some way, shape, or form, they defeated gravity. They had to have. There's no way to do it. There's even some accounts of the Great Pyramid being built from the top down. And what they just discovered underneath the pyramid makes the pyramid look completely insignificant. If you knew what was underneath the pyramids, you would laugh at the top pyramid. You'd be like, oh man, whatever. That's nothing now. They have an area underneath the Giza Plateau, beneath the bedrock, that can hold 6 Burj Khalifas. Can you imagine I go to a developer and say, hey, I'd like to build 6 of these underground in this one area. They would laugh at you. There's not even enough money on earth that you can give them to pay them to even attempt doing it. That's how big this area is underneath the pyramids. And then it goes down to these gigantic megalithic boxes 2 miles down beneath the bedrock. Wow. And each box can hold 64,000 people. And with a LiDAR scan, they see energy moving back and forth. And in the Emerald Tablets, Thoth says he built his entire abode down there in something called the Halls of Amenti. And beneath that Halls of Amenti also was what he called a portal. He would walk through there and appear in other places. So it could hold portal technology. And also these Halls of Amenti hold these rejuvenation chambers where he said he would transfer his mind into new bodies. What we're doing today, just 2 days ago, mainstream news. They're talking about by 2030, 2040, you'll be able to upload your consciousness into a robot. Where did you think I got the idea from? The Emerald Tablets. It's ancient.
Yeah, I saw a video of like a preacher talking about that in an ancient tablet, they were talking about they didn't have the word for robot or machine.
That's right.
But so did AI exist back in the day?
Yeah. Well, they knew how to make bodies. They said we were fashioned bodies. Now they're calling them fashioning bodies, artificial bodies. They're not real bodies. They said they would look so real in the ancient days. They said they look so real, we would walk amongst men, but unlike a man. That's some cold stuff to be writing, man, 36,000 years ago. And he said, I would just transfer my mind into a new body. And he said he would put the old body into a rejuvenation chamber, let it revitalize for 100 years, then he'd come back and grab that one. And I take people to see this Halls of Amenti underground every year.
Billy, I'm gonna go on and tell you the reason why we love having you here is because we're gonna ask every question we've ever thought of under the sun that we had no answers to, and nobody could answer it, not even the internet. At least we didn't know how to utilize it in such a way where we could get the answers.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure other people could. Tell me about this Rothschild's family.
Oof, man, deep.
Now, I kind of understand how the dad who started it all got his money. I guess he used to bet on both wars.
Yeah.
Right? And
funding both sides.
Yeah, he funded both sides.
Yeah.
And I guess he got information of who won first one time and took full advantage of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then is that how it all?
No, it started way before that.
Way before that?
Thousands of years before. Yeah. So, yeah, no, you got to go to the ancient text for this information. There was this war, a pyramid war going on between Amun-Ra, also known as Marduk. He's known as Marduk in the Jewish American Library and the Torah and the Bible, but he's also Amun-Ra. Not Ra, but Amun-Ra. And the great Amen, basically, is the guy. Evil dude, pure evil. Anyone who gives thanks must say my name when they give thanks. Amen. So,
wow. Wow.
This guy ruled over people in a brutal way. He started one war to take rulership or kingship early because you're supposed to rule in processions. He wanted to rule procession of the equinox. He wanted to take over before Pisces, and then they wanted to get him out of there, and he didn't want to go. Second war occurred, and I showed the evidence of this war in my documentary, Anunnaki Ancient Secrets Revealed, where I'm standing there holding evidence in my hand of an ancient war at the Pyramid of Deshir. Anyway, so this guy, he's hiding inside of one of the pyramids in one of the secret shafts, and he's trying to find a way to escape. And he has these people that do a lot of his work with him, and he tells them, the Shatu, that he wants to leave the kingship and the finances of the kingdom to the Ra Kam. Now, Ra, K-A-M, translates into shield, the Ra shield. So over time, that became the Rothschilds. They had access to the funding of the kingdom from ancient times, the most wealthiest kingdom on earth. They had a head start 5,000 years ago. 5,000, they had a head start already. And they've been running this game.
So it's been
wars,
family business.
Family business. They've been doing wars. They learned from great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandpa, and they've been doing it ever since. Now people say, why are they white? Well, you have to understand, number one, there's two reasons why. Egypt was overthrown 7 times. People don't understand this. The original inhabitants of ancient Kemet were the Dogon tribe. They were living in peace, tranquility, no military, no police force, no prisons, no jails, no crime, 0 crime. Still to this day, by the way, same thing. Some people came and said, well, wait a minute, we can take this over. This is too easy. Boom, took them over. They ended up moving to Mali, Africa, where they are still to this very day. Again, they kept getting overthrown. Everyone will reach this nice golden age and get overthrown. And so that mixed the races. Egypt was a hodgepodge of races, number one.
Okay.
You might have a black pharaoh one time, and then the next pharaoh could be totally damn near Caucasian or Assyrian or Babylonian. It was mixed. People don't understand this theory. No, it was all black. It was all white. No, it was every race you could think of. There's Asian hieroglyphs and Asian paintings of Asian people ruling elite in Egypt in places that take people in these temples. You have every race you could think of there. So with that being said, also after Alexander the Great, and these pharaohs were then kicked out, a lot of the ruling families were kicked out from Alexander the Great, they started migrating up into Europe, taking the bloodline along with them. They believed that they were these direct descendants, they meaning the Rothschild family, of these ancient beings. They say that they have the right, because of their bloodline and heritage, they have the right to rule over mankind. This is a statement from one of the Rothschilds. They honestly, heartedly believe this is a fact. They already had a head start financially. They understood the tactics to use, and they were taught very well, and they've passed that down from generation to generation, and they're still using it to this very day. That family combined net worth is $700 trillion. They'll never be on the cover of Forbes magazine.
Right.
You won't see them in Entrepreneur magazine. You won't, none of that. They don't need any of that. They control everything from behind the scenes, and they pull all the strings. They are the master puppeteers, and we are the puppets.
How do we ever get ahead of someone who has a 5,000-year head start on us?
It's tough.
And we're playing their game.
We're playing their game. That's the hard part. You answered my question for me. We have to stop playing their game. The only way to stop all of this from happening, to take this oligarch boot off our neck that has been there for eons.
Right.
Remember when we had the pandemic? They turned the world off. They said, click, click, you guys are turned off. No more. Everything's, even the NBA was closed. When the NBA shut down, I said, oh man, this is real. They shut the NBA down? I said, damn, this is real. Now I believe it. I didn't believe it until the NBA turned off. I said, damn.
And me too.
They turned everything off. They did that. And guess what? We came back. They turned it back on. We came back. We're still here. So why can't we turn it off? What's stopping us? Their divide and conquer tactics. They have worked so well to divide us and separate us and keep us fighting each other. Skin tones, races, religions, financial status, you name it. And because of that, they know that we are so divided, so well divided, that we might never actually fully unite. But in this document called the Illuminati Secret Covenant, they talk about what happens if we ever united. What happens if we ever drop the divide and conquer tactics and realize that we're all one? They said it will be the end for us. There will be nowhere we can run, nowhere we can hide. No shelter will be available for us. They know this. The only thing keeping them going is us. So the reason why we're being dominated is because of our own selves. It's us dominating us by allowing the sharks to do what a shark is already going to do. We have not come to the understanding or the level of consciousness on this planet that what they're doing is playing us like a fiddle and that we've been mind pimped. And we can drop those tactics, drop divide and conquer, learn how to love one another, learn how to be a service of help to one another, learn how to support one another, learn how to organize with each other, and learn how to organize a mass shutdown of the planet. We'll never get out of this situation.
And I believe you. The one thing I always see, I just think black people or a lot of minorities are very, very loving.
We are loving. That's our biggest.
Yeah.
That's our fault.
Yeah, I know. So we're very loving. And it's certain things like where you hear about things like with the, there's a bunch of conspiracy theories like the Titanic and things like that where they sank a whole entire ship to kill one person.
Yeah.
Black people not really.
We're not into that.
Yeah, we're not really in it. We're not going to kill everybody on the ship to get to one person.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah, we just don't think like that. Yeah. And it's unfortunate that they do think like that. And I just think that as long as that kind of evil is around, I don't know if we're going to ever catch up.
It would take a lot of organization. We can do it. We have to organize. Look at ants. Right. Ants can take over anything they want. When they organize, they can kill any size animal. They can kill a horse, but they organize in one solid fashion. The secret is also infiltration. We have to understand, how do we infiltrate the system? We need to become wizards at infiltrating the system from the inside out. We have to become a Trojan horse. We need to start doing what they do. They plan for generations ahead and get people in positions of power. When this person is born, they're going to be a senator. When this person is born, they're going to be a Republican. When this person is born, they're going to be a senator, a congressman. They have it all organized. They're going to head a bank. They're going to head we have to start doing that, but in a way that we're putting them in this system to infiltrate the system from the inside out. And then now we, at one point, activate our sleeper cell.
Right. You're exactly right, because I remember, or at least you always hear back in the day, marriage was a business.
That's right.
It was a business. No, we can't marry that family.
Yeah.
We need somebody that has control over the crops and this person over here, they're into the banking, and they would do things and maneuver in such a way that was beneficial for the group, opposed to, I love them.
Yeah. They call it ordainers of destiny, and they got that from ancient tablets. In the ancient tablets, these Anunnaki beings, only a certain number of them would call themselves the ordainer of destiny. And they would literally pre-see future outcomes and then start nudging themselves on creating situations and events and acting on them to create the outcome that they wanted. And that's the same thing that got passed down to these people, these ruling elite, and they use the same exact technique till this very day. And you're right, black people really have nothing to do with the destruction of this planet at all.
Right.
Zero. Who are the CEOs of the corporations that are poisoning the oceans and putting out all the chemical waste? Who are the heads of these pharmaceutical companies that are injuring everyone with these drugs? Who are the people that are destroying everyone with these agendas, these sexual agendas? I can just keep going on and going.
They don't look like us, Billy.
They don't look like us.
They don't.
We don't have that. It's just not in us.
Right.
I made a podcast the other day saying the same exact thing you just said. I said one of our biggest weaknesses is we're just too loving.
Right.
We're the most loving people. Yeah, we have these skirmishes and wars in our internal neighborhoods where scarcity exists and we're fighting over resources. But you don't see us trying to take over the government, which we could do if we decided to. We just don't want to do it.
And like you said, divide and conquer. And when you said it, I just associate that with they let a few of us make it.
Yeah. You sprinkle them in, like the Salt Bay. You got to sprinkle them in.
No, it's possible.
Yeah, it's possible.
Just to let you know it's possible.
Yeah.
Everyone can't obtain it, but it is possible if you work hard enough.
Yeah. If you make the right connections, get the right collaborations, find the right opportunities, and navigate the breadcrumb trail, because they leave a breadcrumb trail for everyone that they have to leave, because they have to create these laws and rules. But within these laws and rules, there's a little secret, what they call Easter eggs, to navigate through them, like a video game. And so because those breadcrumbs are left there for their own peers, But if we find them, we can use them too.
Right. And not to jump the subject, but I was just really curious. What is your thoughts on Charlie Kirk?
Yeah, that's a deep one. I haven't really talked on it that much, even though I have my own hypothesis. You'll be actually the first person to hear my opinion on it. Very interesting character. Now, Charlie Kirk rose to fame in the political arena.
Right.
Now, he had a lot of pull in politics. I call it politricks. The thing with Charlie Kirk is he has some very polarizing views on all the various different topics, black, white, transgenderism, and everything else. And initially, he was supporting Israel to the nth degree.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, he went on PBD Podcast, and he was like, I don't know if I can say this, but basically he was like, I don't support them no more. I'm starting to realize what they're doing. He began to wake up to the reality of what was really going on, and even the money that he didn't want to accept from them anymore.
Right.
And then when that happened, all of a sudden, he's doing this next situation. Now, the reason why he's a target, because why am I not a target like that? Well, I'm a black guy talking about aliens, and I hate politics.
Right.
So because I'm not in the political arena and influencing people's opinions about red and blue, I'm irrelevant to them. I'm just another crazy black guy talking about aliens. Every now and then he's talking about metaphysics and spirituality, but let him have that. Because he can't influence anybody's opinion on blue and red.
Right.
But Charlie Kirk, his whole career was influencing blue and red, the whole career. And he had obtained about, across all platforms, about 20 million followers combined. Now he had significant influence. They're talking about this guy might even run for president.
Yes, I did hear that.
So now it's like, okay, wait a minute. If you remember the story of in the Bible where they were hunting down, trying to find out the next Messiah that was going to be born, right? Mm-hmm. I think it was King Herod, and he said, I got to find this baby. I don't know who the baby is, but we got to slice the throat of whoever it is. And they just went around just unaliving kids in hopes that one of them would be Yeshua, a.k.a. Jesus. Well, they said the same mindset. These are the same people, by the way, that killed Yeshua, right? So they said, you know what? We need to take him out now before he gets too much power. So obviously the day that he was out there doing that interview underneath that tent, if you pay attention, it appears to me that he had one of those exploding devices. It looked like he had exploding lapel mic, in my opinion. I could be wrong. I don't see a 30-yard not penetrating the neck. I don't see a kid who doesn't look to be well-trained in being a hitman, 200 yards away, calculating wind speed and gravitational drop on a size and weight of a bullet by gram and figuring out how to hit his target. I just don't see that randomly happening.
By yourself.
By himself. And then I got guns. You're not going to just take apart a 30-yard in a couple seconds and just run away with it. It just didn't make any sense to me. And I just believe that he was just another one of these fall guys. I saw the movie Snake Eyes.
Okay.
And the movie Snake Eyes is the same exact Charlie Kirk hit. So This is, I think it was 1980, can't quote me on the year, 1982, 88, somewhere in there. This movie Snake Eyes comes out. And in this movie Snake Eyes, you have a political figure up and coming, gaining popularity, very polarizing. He's at a boxing match. The boxer is named Tyler, the same name as the kid that supposedly is the fall guy for hitting him, right?
That's crazy.
And then you have the mysterious shooter in the distance, right, taking aim at this political figure. And then you have these other players within this thing where they seem to be distractions, and come to find out in the end, they end up working for Mossad, Israelis. And one of them was a U.S. officer. And then you discover that Tyler takes a fall in the fight. He's the fall guy. He falls over. He pretends like he got hit, but the punch never hit him. He takes a dive in the fight. And while he's down, that was a distraction needed for this device or this person to get shot directly in the same part of the neck as Charlie Kirk. And what was the name of this political figure? Charlie Kirkland.
I hate this. I really do.
That's bizarre. That's a hell of a damn coincidence. I don't believe in coincidences like that. Yeah. I watched the movie again myself just to make sure I was right, and it's absolutely down to the T what I just told you. Anyone can go get it on Amazon Prime right now and watch it. You're going to go.
1998,
Thank you, 1998. I thought it was, 1998. Snake Eyes. And when you
so
walk
they
into
just put it. What's the point of putting it right in our face?
I forgot one more thing. I'm sorry. This is very important. As they're walking into the boxing arena, the sign for the name of the boxing match is on the billboard, and it has the date, September the 10th. It's the date of the fight, by the way. I'm just sorry. I just bring that up to you. But the purpose is, it's a game. It's all a game.
How does it go from generation to generation? I assume they indoctrinate, like, their master plan to their kin.
Yeah.
They're doing it to the date. Like, what's going on? The movie came out, you said in 98.
98, yeah.
And now they're doing this in 2025 down to the date?
Yeah.
Is there...
To Charlie Kirk? How did they know he was... Okay, wait a minute. Okay, wait a minute.
Time travel?
That's where I was going.
I'm getting ready to tell you.
I was going, is there time travel?
There's something called a quantum mirror. This exists. I first heard about the quantum mirror, and I couldn't talk about it. This is 2018. And I was in a TS-cleared private space meeting. And they talked about the quantum mirror. But now they released it. Finally, the information about it has become public, so now I can talk about it a little bit. The quantum mirror takes photons. You inject photons in a particular way, on a particular frequency, into this quantum mirror, this field. It's not really a mirror like you hold up a glass mirror. It's a different type of a mirror. But it's like this mirror universe. It's this quantum field, this energetic field. When the photon goes in, it's reflected back. But when it comes back, it's coming back from the future with data on it. And if you have the right machine, you can then extrapolate this data and discern it. It's not like a mirror like you can see your own reflection in or watch a movie play on the screen, but it gives you these data points on probabilities. And when you go through the probabilities, you begin to, if you have the right equipment and the right cryptography, you can actually obtain the information from these photons, what's encoded on the photon particularly. So they have these devices already. They already exist. They even discovered recently that a decision you make today and act on changes the past. So they now know how to, and this is peer-reviewed science, by the way. So we can change the past by something we do today. So they've been manipulating timelines this whole time.
Have you ever, and I'm sure you have, and I'm just want to bring it up. Have you ever seen when they show like a logo of a company, and we remember it a certain way, and the company claims it's never been that way?
The Mandela effect.
Yeah. Is that this?
Those are experiments for altering timelines. First, they started out experimenting with this technology, doing things like creating what we call the Mandela effect, changing logos, changing slogans, changing minute, small information to see how people will react, how people will notice it, what will be the effect on civilization and society. So they do things that won't really affect anybody in a negative way, just to see what the experience would be, and could they actually achieve it? And they were able to do it. And now it's part of an ongoing technology, in my opinion, that they're utilizing to alter and change the past and the future.
Wow.
Manipulation at every level.
Now, I don't know how ridiculous this is, but we came across, there's a book. Do you remember, what was the name of the book?
The Marvelous Adventures of Baron Trump.
Wow.
Are you familiar with that one?
No, I didn't hear about that one. This is something new. Now you hit me over the head with something new. I love this one. I love when this happens.
So
it's okay. Go on.
Wait, give me a.
This is crazy.
Yeah. Oh wow.
He's gonna run down the information, but
this is pre-Trump.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the book was released 1898.
Oh wow.
And
1898.
Yeah. More evidence of what I'm telling you right now.
Yeah.
More evidence of what I'm telling you. I'm telling you, they've been playing this game for a while. I mean, they didn't go back there. They didn't start back then. I'm saying, but you do something now, you can change 1800s.
Right. We think something weird happened. Okay, go on.
I would watch for Baron because here's the thing. There's also another book called Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey. Ingersoll Lockwood wrote this book too in the late 1800s, depicting this character.
When they picked those same names.
Yes.
Baron Trump.
Baron Trump. That is a book. Yes. Ingersoll Lockwood wrote both these books. Right?
In the 1800s.
Yes. I believe it was like 1893, 1896, something like that.
Then there has to be time travelers.
Well, here's the thing. In the book, Baron Trump is a time traveler. No bullshit. All this is in the book, you guys. And guess what? So he time travels, right? He has a mentor named Don. This is in the book. So here's the theory that Trump actually has some type of time travel technology only because Donald Trump's uncle, John G. Trump, worked for the FBI. Now, when Nikola Tesla died, they sent him in because he's a scientist, he's a physicist, engineer, smart guy. So they were like, hey, go in to Nikola Tesla's, room and decipher all his works and whatnot. Because, Nikola Tesla discovered free energy and a multitude of things, right? So Donald Trump's uncle goes in there and says, we didn't find anything. It's a bunch of BS. You don't think that Nikola Tesla, who had discovered free energy and manipulated electromagnetism, which had that you can, in theory, bend time, light, and space. This man's works was confiscated by him, and he didn't find anything.
They bend the electromagnetic field and send the photon back to you.
I don't even know what to say. Yeah. So how do we win against that?
That's pretty tough. There's only one way is organization. But it's so hard to organize. It's going to be hard to, this is a battle that's going to be hard to win because 8 billion people have to coordinate. 8 billion people have to want to work together. And they've got this thing so incredibly created, it's only going to take another way, and the other way is infiltration. Because then it becomes almost like a spy game. You become like a secret. It becomes secret, so secret to them they can't see it coming. Until you get people in positions of power, you activate your own sleeper cell like they do. They have sleeper cells. The Mossad, they have sleeper cells all over the United States right now, today, ready to commit an egregious atrocity against any city on a drop of a dime. One secret text message on an encrypted code, a quantum encrypted message, and a whole city can go down right now today. Mossad has that power within you. Why do you think they're doing what they're doing for Israel? It's the sleeper cells, the blackmail. Those two things combined together are why they're doing everything they want. Their mission is to turn this into the United States of Israel.
Wow. Yeah. And this is okay, go on.
Have you seen the movie Interstellar?
Oh, yeah. Great movie.
So, the ending where they talk about the fifth dimension?
Yeah.
Do you think time is like a circle and basically everything that has happened?
So what happens is he ends up in something called a tesseract at the end of the movie. A tesseract is a fourth dimensional hypercube. In ancient text, it's known as Metatron's cube. Meta? Where do you think they got that name? Yeah. They got it from this ancient text. In Metatron's cube, fourth dimensional hypercube, you're entering to a higher dimension where from that dimension, the past, present, and future exist all at once. And so in that case, you see him go to the house. He's in the house from a higher dimension. He can see his daughter at different ages within the same house. So imagine we're in here now, and but somebody was watching us from a higher dimension. They could see from the moment I came in and was in the kitchen. They could see us in here. They could see you on the ladder. They could see all that simultaneously, even though it happened at particular, from our point of view, different points in time. It happens all at once from higher dimensions. And so those dimensions, anything from the fourth up, you can do that. From the third down, we can only manipulate and see what's in the second and first dimension because we're in the third. So we can draw a house on a piece of paper by connecting lines, and we can see inside of the house because we connected the lines. We can see, of course, we can interfere or intersect with a single line, which is one-dimensional. But we're in the third, and we're immersed in the third. We can barely perceive from here what the fourth would even look like. We have an idea or concepts on computers, but we don't really understand it fully. But we do understand the way that time is bent and the way that time exists for us as an arrow. But in a higher dimension, time really doesn't exist. Time doesn't exist. Clocks exist.
Shit.
What's going on in Antarctica?
Oh, man, Antarctica is an amazing place. I'm looking forward to doing a new project with Antarctica that's going to scan beneath the ice and give us some real data, that privately held data that we can release. Antarctica has a lot of lore going all the way back to Admiral Byrd. Admiral Byrd, one of the highest decorated admirals in the history of the United States, went down there with a fleet of Navy vessels to find out what the heck was going on with the Germans down there in New Schwabenland, a place they called New Schwabenland. When they got down there, they were met by these flying objects, according to Admiral Byrd. And he says, we have a new enemy, one that can fly from pole to pole with extreme speed. And not only could it fly from pole to pole, it destroyed some of his Navy vessels and sent him limping back home with his tail between his legs. Now we have research bases in Antarctica, and I produced a TV show called The Secrets of Antarctica by Brad Olson. Brad Olson actually went to Antarctica, got permission to go on land. Very hard to get there, and to get on land is even more incredible. Those research bases are around this area where there's an opening. That opening has about 30-meter wide opening where supposedly there are people in there. Buzz Aldrin went down there years ago, and all the leaders of the world were going to visit this opening. For what? What's in this hole? Well, Buzz Aldrin made a very cryptic tweet saying that the people in there are evil and we're facing the ultimate evil, something to that effect. He tweeted it, and it went viral, and it got screenshot and copied, and you can probably Google the tweet and find it and add it to this podcast. And then they rushed him out of there and said, oh, we had to fly him out. He had a heart attack or something. Okay. First of all, to get air support in that location is extremely difficult. But obviously they just wanted to get him out of there because what he saw spooked him so bad, he wanted no parts of it. Antarctica has pyramids. Antarctica has remnants of ancient technology and ancient civilization underneath that ice, and the ice is melting. And so that's why they're down there. They're getting their hands on tech, ancient tech, that they can then reverse engineer and monetize it and even weaponize it. That's what's going on.
I've heard this theory, and I don't know what's real because there's so much information out there that there's land beyond Antarctica. Is that true?
No, there's no land beyond Antarctica.
Okay.
There are giant ice walls there. Now, those walls aren't walls like a wall in a house. These are called ice shelves. They move and they shift with the ebb and flow of the melting of the glaciers. And beyond them is just more earth. As you keep going, you go around the whole globe. There's no ice walls, and beyond that, there's just hidden land. Right. There are areas within the area of Antarctica that do have more habitable zones where there's trees and greenery, where there should be ice. It's unexplainable, but there could be some geothermal activity beneath that layer of land down there, creating this oasis. Pretty easy to explain, actually.
Could you explain the octagon on Saturn?
That's an incredible thing. I had Terrence Howard on one of my podcasts, and his theory on the mathematics behind how that hectagon was formed, he actually recreated it with some mathematics. It seems like a mathematical anomaly. Obviously, it's pretty incredible that you can create that type of a pattern on the top of a planet and have it there solid and stable for what may be, who knows, since its formation. But it seems like a mathematical anomaly based on what his research was about. It definitely makes you want to scratch your head, and it definitely makes you realize that these planets, these moons, this solar system, the universe itself is created. And that could be a little bit of evidence of the mathematics that went behind creating that planet itself.
I told you. We got you here. We asking everything under the sun we confused about.
Oh, and what about the Goldilocks zone idea?
Yeah, well, that's a planet habitable zone from the distance from the sun. So basically anything that happens to be 1 AU, 1 astronomical unit from the sun, seems to be, according to our estimates now, because we're 1 AU from the sun, perfect for water flow and temperature and life, right? And so we now know that there are potentially billions of planets in habitable zones throughout the known universe. And there are many just within the Milky Way galaxy alone. And so these planets are orbiting the sun at a distance that's not too far away, not too close, to create or allow life as we know it to exist. But I don't believe that means anything. What we know is a sliver of anything. We barely know how to tie our shoes, right? We just learned how to do that. So in terms of a geological time scale, there could be civilizations that mastered living as far away as Pluto. We just don't know or understand. And so we're assuming that it means Goldilocks and its life there based on what we know about life on Earth. But we keep discovering things like extremophiles on Earth. Extremophiles are life forms that can live on top of vents underneath the ocean, volcanic vents, and literally live off the sulfur. We have discovered life forms on Earth that can live off of super toxic acid. So we don't really know what life actually is. We're only presuming and guessing based on the little bit we know about ourselves.
So if you were given the option to be able to download your brain into a computer so you can, because, you know, we live in this mortal skin. We're living in borrowed time. Would you do it to, I guess, live longer and get the answers, or?
I would do it in a very different way. So what I would do is I wouldn't download my mind into a computer, into a machine or a computer so I can inhabit it specifically at that moment. I would do backups. So I would probably wear something that would look like a device that would kind of just wrap around my head and transmit my thoughts on a moment-by-moment basis to a database. Probably something that had a DNA hard drive because it can store the capacity of all my thoughts and organize them in a fashion that would be retrievable. Because DNA can store an immense amount of data. If you have a DNA hard drive, you can store 433 petabytes of data on one drop. Wow. So that would allow me to store an enormous amount of data. And that actually exists already, by the way. Microsoft made the very first DNA hard drive. And then I would transmit my thoughts real time to this device as a backup. And then just before the moment of my demise, or I would even have it timed or set into my will or my whatever, I would have it set to where then the transfer would happen from my absolute last thought. So I would have some form of consistent memory to that point versus just saying, hey, I'm going to just leave this body now and go live inside this computer or this robot. It would be a transition more than an instantaneous move from one body to the next.
Okay, I like that. I'm going to look into that. That's a better way, because I feel like once you're transferred, it's not really you.
Right.
It's like a clone.
It's a clone.
Yeah.
It's a clone. Now, here's what you can do, which is incredible, better than a robot. Now we can take one skin cell from you, so it's your own cell. Take a skin cell, convert that skin cell into a stem cell in a laboratory setting. Then culture that one stem cell into a culture of stem cells, and then we can grow something called a synthetic embryo. And then we can grow that in an artificial womb to any age specified. That's real peer-reviewed science.
Any age?
Any age.
What did you?
You can come back as 25?
Yeah, you can.
Did you see the news of Tom Brady cloning his dog?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he cloned his dog. His previous dog passed away. He got an exact copy.
Boom, there you go. They can do it for dogs. They can do it for humans. They can do it for anything.
Oh, my
And then you just transfer your mind into your new body, like they talked about in the Animal Tablets 36,000 years ago. So you don't have to be a robot. You can be a real person.
Are you have so much information. Are you scared of being Billy Carson? Like, are you worried?
No, I'm not worried, man. I'm just here to see. I just keep dropping seeds, and I know that these trees are going to grow and create great, shade trees. I'll never sit in the shade of those trees, but I'm just dropping the seeds and hopefully putting humanity, enough people in a percentage in a way where they start seeing things differently and create eventually a shift in consciousness on the planet to where we can overcome some of these obstacles, But I have no fear whatsoever,
The one thing I heard you say, you was like, I could talk about this now.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it seems like you have information that you won't even release just yet until you have proof of that actually going on.
Yeah, enough proof of it, and sometimes to where I even feel people can handle it,
Oh, wow.
So sometimes, for example, when I knew about the fractal holographic nature of the universe all the way back in 2008, if I spoke that one time anywhere, I'd be laughed out of the room, right? But then over time, when the perception of reality started to get altered and understood better, and quantum physicists like Michio Kaku started coming out and talking about it, and other people started, interjecting pieces, and like Professor James Gates Jr. and many others, I was able to begin to put together the whole scenario. And then I began talking about it much later when I thought everyone was beginning to be ready to hear about this. You see, so there's a time when I release information. I have like gigs and gigs of data, maybe terabytes of data to release, but I can't talk about them yet.
Yeah, we've had a lot of interviews, and to be honest, most people have notes.
Yeah.
This is all. I mean, you remember names, dates, times, everything. You're amazing. I mean, I don't know. What about political groups? Do they ever approach you and say, "Hey, I would love for you to follow this narrative"?
No,
because we hear a lot of that about certain, like Charlie Kirk, for instance. You mentioned, that group going after him and wanting them to speak highly for them. Does stuff like that happen to you?
I've denounced politics so harshly that they would never approach me. I show every 4 years I post on social media my voting ballot for presidency, and I write my name on the ballot. They know I ain't playing no games. I vote for myself,
right? Because
I am the president, and that's how I view myself, how I envision myself. I'm the president, and if everybody took on the onus of being their own president,
right,
the world would change overnight.
Absolutely. Hey man, I'm blown away. God.
Yeah. You answered all my questions.
Yeah.
Sort
of.
The thing is now, I know that, I'm going to sit down with all this information, try to decipher it, break it down. But shit.
I don't know if you could break it down.
No, I don't think so.
I don't know who could break it down, but Billy, man. Man. Billy, do you want any upcoming events?
So next year I have a huge group of tours. So I have my Forbidden Tour of Turkey and my Forbidden Tour of Egypt coming up again.
Okay.
2 big tours. I just got back from Egypt with an incredible 90+ people. And every year I take between 90 to 100 people to Egypt. Wow. Turkey's just as amazing. So they can find that on my website, 4forbiddenknowledge.com. And then I have my Forbidden Knowledge Academy, my online academy, where I'm teaching everything from ancient mysteries to science to philosophy, metaphysics, as well as even entrepreneurship and financial literacy, all combined together in one huge online university. And that's 4bkacademy.com. And we got over 1,200 students in there now. I call them leaders. In only 3 months, 1,200 people all working to become a better version of themselves.
That is awesome. The last thing I wanted to ask you about, and I seen this guy on the internet actually moving things with his...
A black guy.
There you go, a young black guy.
Yes.
Is that real?
Telekinesis is totally real. So we all have these capabilities, and they're not powers, they're not gifts. It's something that we're already supposed to be able to tap into. Our ancestors, our cousins, before Homo sapiens sapien came to be through the genetic modification, had access to everything that we can feel, taste, touch, hear, see, and also the unseen things like psychic ability, telekinesis. All these are natural functions of the human avatar body. But we have disconnected DNA. It's called junk DNA, but it's not really junk. It has function. But in some people, as you all know, when you have somebody is born, their embryo through the embryonic stage can form in a certain way where certain connections are reformed or connected in certain ways or rewired in certain ways that actually allow these things to happen. So telekinesis is just a natural function of the human avatar body, and it's nothing more than realizing something so simple that in this room, the microphone, the screen in front of me, the camera, you and your partner appear to be completely separate, right? We look like we're in separate locations even.
Right.
We don't realize that scientifically we're not separate. Separation is an illusion. Individuality is an illusion. I'm not talking to you, I'm actually talking to myself. There's nobody else here. There's only one consciousness that exists. Energetically, we are tethered together by this energetic field. We have the illusion of individuality and separation because of the way that this universe is expanding and clumps of frequency clump into the illusion of solid matter. But there's only one conscious mind exists in this entire universe. And so because of that, we're all connected. And that means not just me and you, it means things that we quote unquote say are man-made. Well, we didn't make this microphone. This microphone is made of atoms, right?
Right.
So what are atoms? Building blocks. So did we make the building blocks? No, we just stacked them like Legos and turned them into a tool. We didn't make a microphone. We just created a tool from existing material. See?
So I know, and also I think there's how do people discover their abilities?
Well, it's a lot of the times it happens by accident.
Okay.
You know,
just pure accident.
You have a glass a mug in front of you, right? Imagine you're yearning to grab that mug, but it's just slightly out of your reach, and you kind of maybe lean forward a little bit and realize it's out of your reach, but all of a sudden you see it move a little bit. Like, wait a minute. Then all of a sudden you go, that thing just kind of moved a little bit, and then you start exercising that power, that ability. If you begin to realize that everything is energetically connected, which is where I was going, you realize that you're already touching the mug. I'm already touching your mug from here without even having to extend my hand. It's already touching the field of the electrons orbiting the atoms in my fingers from this distance. Mm-hmm. So since I'm already energetically connected to the mug, it's all about just getting on the frequency of the atoms in the mug. The atoms in the mug are all based on electromagnetic fields, and they resonate at a specific frequency. And if I can match that frequency, I can manipulate that mug from here. So it's all about shifting the field of the electrons in the atoms in your hands, for example, or your thoughts.
Wow. And since you mentioned the word frequency, I heard that's the way they're going to start, or at least hopefully start curing diseases through frequency.
That is the new
things like that
way. And I talked about this so long ago. I think I was on Beyond Belief in 2015 on Gaia, or 2014, one of them years. And we were talking about, potential future healing. And again, on Sean Ryan, I think in 2022, I talked about it as well again, that if you analyze the frequency of the vibration of the atoms in a tumor, all right, they have a specific frequency.
Right.
And then you create a tool that can actually match that frequency and send a beam of frequency towards that tumor. You can destroy the tumor without disturbing any other tissue around the tumor, and you can eradicate it all by a frequency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they ever going to cure disease?
They've been working on it. There are some diseases.
Do you think they want to?
There's a couple. They don't want to, but there's a couple of independent researchers that have actually done it. I think so many people are getting access to some of this technology now. It's getting harder and harder to suppress it and oppress them and lock them up and raid their facilities. Because I can have a laboratory in my house now. I've got an electron microscope. I've got a whole chemistry kit in my house. I'm doing experiments at home. How can they even know I'm doing them unless I make them public? But when we begin to make these open forums with this open source forum, and we lay out the blueprints and the information and the instructions on how to do all this stuff, they can't stop anybody.
Yeah. I'm sure you're familiar with the guy, Nature's Jab.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He's doing amazing work over there as far as turning plastic into fuel.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Things like that.
Yeah. Black gentleman, young kid.
Yeah.
You're doing a great job. Yeah.
Yeah. He came up missing, but then he reappeared.
I know another black guy.
Hopefully it's him.
Yeah. No, I hope it's him. I know another black guy who's, I met him just a few months ago. His name is Osiris. Great name. He's turning tires into fuel, but he's extracting the hydrogen atoms from the tires and turning hydrogen into fuel. He's using the hydrogen and pushing it into a chamber for combustion, clean energy.
Now, I know you probably know, but I hope I can describe it in such a way you can recall, because I can't. There was a white guy who went to a certain area and killed a black guy and killed a few people in this one area. I think he died within a grocery store. But he had a patent for, I can't remember, it was for fuel or for something that would have changed everything. I can't remember what it was, and everyone said that he was basically assassinated. I can't remember the situation.
Okay, so you're talking about, so they came and killed him at a restaurant.
It was at a restaurant.
Yes, okay, yeah, Cracker Barrel.
Okay.
Right. So basically he had invented this filter. This filter, you put water in it.
Okay.
And through electrolysis, it extracted the hydrogen atoms and used them for combustion. You can put snow in the tank, you can piss in the tank, you can put salt water in. It didn't matter what you put in the tank. As long as it had H2O in it, it can power the machine, it can power the device.
Exactly.
There's a car that ran on water-powered car. And the military, the Pentagon came to see him. They met him for lunch at the Cracker Barrel. He was there with his brother. And they weren't having a good negotiation. And they ended up poisoning his food. He died right there in the parking lot at Cracker Barrel. Yeah. Took him out. Yeah.
But he had a patent, right?
I don't think he had it patented yet. If he did, it didn't matter to them. They just eminent domain a patent. Patents are the worst thing you can do.
Oh.
Yeah, if you have revolutionary technology and that could change the economies and you patent it, you just might as well just cross yourself out. Yeah, just take yourself out.
So what should you do then?
Open source. See, when Elon Musk came up with his battery, even though his battery is really not that great, to be honest with you.
Tesla.
It's killing people. It's melting down and burning houses down. But it was able to produce this industry. So when he came out with the battery, he did not patent it. Now, he could have patented the battery, but if he patented the battery, he realized they would just take it off the market because of the fuel, right? Gas, coal, and all them. But also, if he patented it, then also, where's the industry at? If I make it open source, everybody's going to start building them, and then I can pay money to the government, pay them off through lobbying, and get them to approve it and let it happen. And now I created a whole industry global by not patenting my device.
That's genius.
Yeah.
But I also heard, and maybe you know this, and I heard the only reason why they let it happen is because they let Chrysler, Ford, and all those people invest into Tesla and allow it to happen.
Yeah,
Is that true?
They invested, and
basically he kissed the ring.
They collect. Well, it's possible, because he kissed the Mossad ring. But when they collaborated together like that,
right,
and put all that billions of dollars into lobbying money,
right,
all the laws got passed. It opened right up. They made promises they can never deliver on, like all these charging stations that are never going to get built. By the way, these charging they will never happen. These charging stations are death centers and robbery centers for women. The 45 to an hour to charge up your vehicle.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. That's why I'm like,
when it's cold outside, you can't get a charge because the machines don't work. The future of transportation is hydrogen. I've been saying this for years. For years, I've been saying this. The Navy has a vessel. It doesn't have to get fuel. It sucks in the ocean, desalinates it, uses electrolysis, extracts the hydrogen atoms, push that into the chamber for combustion. Cars are going to be all hydrogen-based fuel cells, which can recharge in just minutes, not hours.
Wow.
Airplanes, I said this before Rolls-Royce released their plane. You can look at the oldest podcast that they're going to go with hydrogen, buy the shares. At the time, the shares were 89 cents. Now the shares are like $9. So I told people to get them cheap shares. They made a hydrogen-powered airplane a couple years ago, and it flew across the country.
Wow.
And it's now going to be the future of aviation. Hydrogen, clean, burning, zero emissions. The only thing you get out of it is a little bit of steam. That's about it. And that's where everything is going to be going, into hydrogen fuel cells.
And how can they control if somebody, let's say, lights a cigarette, not blowing the
By putting it into a fuel cell.
Fuel cell?
It's a more controlled form of hydrogen. Yeah. So it still generates electricity, but in a different way. And they're going to be switching lithium and cobalt eventually. You're going to move out of those slave mines that all these children out there, in forced slave labor, mining the ground with their hands to pull this cobalt and lithium out of the ground so that we can have these electric cars and electric devices and screens and so forth. They're going to switch that to a different technology. The name of it, but the particular one they're going to use, I can't say yet, but it's all going to come to an end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, thank you for showing up. I could probably talk to you for hours, but I'm just going to ask one more question.
Yeah.
Chemtrails, what's that? What's going on? Oh, man.
Boron being sent out of the back of these, and other particulates being sent out of the back of the airplanes, been now proven to be 1,000% real. All these years I had my account suspended over 5 times for talking about chemtrails over the years. They need to send me some money, right? Because now they just had a congressional hearing on chemtrails a few weeks ago. Not only is it real, the news reporter was saying, they're trying to figure out how they can ban it in certain countries now. Florida has banned the chemtrails. A few other states have banned chemtrails in the United States of America already. And what they were doing was this global warming agenda. So global warming, first of all, is not real, okay? Cows farting and spray cans didn't make it warmer on Earth. This is the most asinine, crazy scam they've ever played on mankind besides a global pandemic. So what they said was they figured out if we can push this agenda, it can generate a multi-trillion-dollar industry. And it opened up into this weather geoengineering revenue that they're able to suck dry out of the American people and even the global people, and they did it. And they're dropping this stuff in the atmosphere to cool the planet off and reflect sunlight back into space. They do it from the ground, they do it from the sky. Either way, it's toxic to human beings. That's why people are getting all these autoimmune diseases and all these other stuff. It's coming from, and Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, it's coming from these chemicals that they're dropping in the sky to reflect the sunlight back into space and cool off the Earth, like we need cooling on the Earth. If you go into the ice core data, this is one of the biggest things that got my Instagram account suspended. They finally had to bring it back because I filed a lawsuit against them. I filed a lawsuit showing the scientific data. You go to the ice core data. The ice core data goes down miles beneath the Earth. It comes back up. They have whole museums of ice core data. You can go tap in online and download the data. It will tell you the cooling and warming periods, right? Every so many thousand years, we have these cycles based on the solar cycles, based on geological activity. This isn't even one of the warmest cooling cycles. We're actually not that hot. There have been far more warming cycles before the industrial age even existed. So we're like, this is like nice and balmy. This is cool. Based on what has happened in the past. It's a natural occurrence of cycles that happen geologically on Earth and nothing to do with cows farting and spray cans and emissions from gas. Now, have we had an effect on the warming? Yeah. You want to know the percentage?
What's the
1%.
Wow.
1% effect on global warming from humans. 1.
Wow.
And they made trillions off of this scam. Trillions. While they fly around in their private jets emitting all this carbon monoxide in the air to go have summits to complain about global warming. Tesla's factory, the carbon footprint on his factory to produce his cars is outrageously high, some of the highest on the planet.
Wow.
Higher than any combustion engine factory. So, and then you're not even driving a real electric car. You're driving a car that still runs on fuel because the electricity is coming from fuel production to charge the car. And then you got to wait an hour to get the electricity in the car. If you convert oil to electricity to put it in your car, you're still driving a gas-powered car under the guise of electric.
That's amazing. But Billy, thank you for coming, man.
Thank you.
Totally appreciate you.
I appreciate
you answered
it.
pretty much a majority of my questions. I got a few more, but we're going to wait till the next time you come here for sure.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
I'm down 162 pounds in 6 months, and it feels great. Looking at myself in the mirror is a trip. I marvel at myself now because I'm like, man, I've done this in 6 months. 6 months is not that long ago.
I started this program back on July 1st at 288.5 pounds. Today I weighed in at 184. When I first got here, I was sad and depressed and stressed out. Over time, I regained my self-esteem, my willpower, my determination, and those things have helped me to grow and become happier with myself and in life.
Use code TFU10 for a discount on the full body cleanse.